Patience is not merely waiting. It is the ability to trust in the unseen, to endure uncertainty without losing faith in the outcome. We live in a world that demands instant gratification, that tells us if something isn't happening now, it may never happen at all. But life does not unfold on our schedule. It moves according to a rhythm far greater than our own, shaping us, refining us, preparing us for what we are not yet ready to receive. So when you feel restless, when you question whether you should keep waiting or walk away, consider this: what if the delay is not a denial but a transformation? What if this time of waiting is forging something within you, something necessary for the love, the connection, the destiny that is meant for you? Because the real question is not when will it happen. The real question is, who are you becoming while you wait? There is something profound about the way we just know certain things, not in a loud or dramatic way, but in a quiet, steady sense that sits in the background of our minds, unshaken by passing emotions or external circumstances. It isn't forced, it isn't frantic, it simply is. A kind of certainty that doesn't demand proof, a deep inner peace that lingers despite all logic telling you otherwise. You may have tried to push it away, to reason with yourself, to convince yourself that you are merely clinging to wishful thinking. But even after all your doubts, after all the moments you've told yourself to let go, that feeling remains. It doesn't cry out for attention. It doesn't beg for validation. It simply exists, like a quiet river beneath the surface, flowing steadily in a direction you cannot yet fully see. And yet we often don't trust that feeling. We second guess, we overanalyze, we try to compare it to what others say or think, because we have been taught that certainty must come from outside of us, that it must be confirmed, proven, or justified. But real knowing doesn't work that way. It doesn't come through external validation, nor does it require everything in life to fall perfectly into place. In fact, it often persists, despite the uncertainty, despite the unanswered questions, despite the waiting. This kind of peace isn't the absence of longing. It's not that you don't care or that you've lost interest. It's that you no longer feel the need to force things. You no longer feel restless in the waiting. You no longer feel like time is running out or that you must grasp at something before it slips away, because you understand, on some level beyond words, that what is meant for you cannot be lost. That's the paradox, isn't it? The more you chase, the more what you seek seems to pull away. But the moment you surrender, not in despair but in trust, life begins to move in ways you could never have predicted. Because true patience is not about standing still and doing nothing. It is about allowing things to unfold as they must, rather than as you wish they would. And so, if you find yourself in a place where you feel this quiet certainty, this unshakable knowing, then perhaps it is not there to torment you. Perhaps it is not a sign of longing, but a sign of alignment. Perhaps it is not urging you to act, but to trust. Because when something is truly meant for you, it does not require desperation. It does not demand that you grasp for it. It does not slip away simply because time has passed. If it is truly meant to be, then it is already moving toward you, just as surely as you are moving toward it. Life has a peculiar way of slowing us down just when we think we should be moving forward. You try, you plan, you take action, and yet nothing. The door you keep knocking on remains closed. You tell yourself that if you just push a little harder, if you find the right words, if you prove yourself enough, things will shift. And yet, time and time again, you are met with silence, with delay, with obstacles that seem to appear out of nowhere. It's easy to think that this is some kind of punishment, that perhaps you're not good enough, not deserving enough, not trying hard enough. But what if the delay isn't rejection? What if it's protection? What if life is keeping you from stepping into something before the time is right, before you are ready, before the other person is ready? We are so accustomed to seeing resistance as a challenge to be overcome. If something isn't happening, we assume it is our responsibility to make it happen. But not everything in life is meant to be forced. Some things require space, some things need time, and when a door refuses to open, it is not always because it is locked forever. It may simply be that what is on the other side is not yet prepared for you, or you for it. Think about all the times in your life when things didn't work out the way you wanted them to, only for you to realize later that what you thought was a failure was actually a blessing in disguise, that the job you didn't get led you to a better opportunity, that the person who left made space for someone more aligned with who you were becoming, that the moment you stopped chasing was the moment things started to fall into place on their own. The same principle applies here. If you are meeting resistance, if everything you do seems to lead to more delays, then maybe life is telling you something. Maybe it's saying, not yet, not as a punishment, not as a cruel joke, but as a divine orchestration that is keeping you from something premature, something incomplete, something that is still in the process of becoming. And this is where patience becomes more than just waiting, it becomes trust. Trusting that what is meant for you will not require struggle. Trusting that if something is truly yours, it will come to you in its own time without you having to force it. Trusting that the delays you are experiencing are not obstacles, but alignments. Because when the time is right, when everything is as it should be, you will not have to break down doors. The doors will open on their own. There's something interesting about waiting. We assume it's just an empty space, a gap between where we are and where we want to be, a kind of limbo where nothing really happens except the slow, aching passage of time. But what if waiting isn't just about time passing? What if it's doing something to you, shaping you, preparing you, refining you in ways you can't yet see? Because think about it. If you were handed everything you wanted the moment you asked for it, would you even be ready to receive it? Would you know how to hold on to it, how to nurture it, how to truly appreciate it? Or would it slip through your fingers simply because you hadn't yet become the person who could sustain it? There is a reason why certain things don't come to us right away. It's not because we are being punished, nor is it because we are unworthy. It's because life is giving us an opportunity to become more patient, more aware, more grounded, to become someone who doesn't need to grasp desperately at love, but can meet it from a place of wholeness, someone who isn't seeking another person to fill a void, but who is already full within themselves. And this is where the real work begins, not out there, but within. Because when you are forced to wait, when you can no longer control the outcome, you are given a rare gift, the chance to look inward, to examine the parts of yourself that still need growth. Maybe there are wounds that need healing, patterns that need breaking, fears that need confronting. Maybe the waiting is not about the other person at all. It's about you, about the way you see yourself, about the way you give and receive love, about the way you trust in the unfolding of your own life. This is why patience is not passive. It's not about sitting around hoping, longing. It's about using this time to grow, to evolve, to become. Because when the time is right, when the person you are waiting for finally steps into your life in the way they are meant to, the question won't be, are they ready? The question will be, are you? So instead of focusing on what is missing, instead of fixating on what you cannot control, turn your attention in. Ask yourself, who am I becoming during this waiting? What parts of myself need attention, need love, need understanding? Because the truth is, no matter how perfect the timing may be, no matter how right the connection may feel, if you are not ready to receive it, it will slip through your hands. And that is why you must trust this process, not as an inconvenience, not as an obstacle, but as a preparation. Because when love finally arrives, when the timing aligns, you won't just be meeting the right person. You will be meeting them as the person you were always meant to be. There's a kind of restlessness that comes with waiting, a feeling that you should be doing more, figuring things out, making things happen, because we've been conditioned to believe that if we don't take control, if we don't push forward, life will simply pass us by. But isn't it strange that the more we try to force something, the further out of reach it seems? And yet the moment we surrender, when we stop grasping, stop chasing, things begin to move in ways we never expected. This is the paradox of trust. The more you try to control life, the more it resists. The more you try to predict, to calculate, to manipulate the outcome, the more anxious you become. But when you let go, when you surrender to the flow of life, instead of fighting against it, something changes. You begin to see that waiting is not empty. It is not a punishment. It is a lesson in trust. And trust, in its deepest sense, is not about believing everything will go exactly as you want. It is about knowing that even if things unfold differently than you expected, they are still unfolding exactly as they should. That even if the timing isn't what you hoped for, it is still the right timing. That even if life isn't giving you what you asked for, it is giving you what you need. But this kind of trust requires something many people struggle with: patience. Not the kind of patience where you sit idly by, waiting for something to fall into your lap. No, this is an active patience, a patience that is rooted in deep understanding, in surrender, in knowing that just because you cannot see the movement doesn't mean it isn't happening. Think of a seed planted in the soil. You water it, you nurture it, but for a long time you see nothing. You might even start to believe that nothing is happening, that it was all for nothing. But beneath the surface, something is changing. The roots are forming, the structure is strengthening, and when the time is right, it will break through the soil. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late. The same is true for what you are waiting for. You may not see the movement yet, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. You may not understand why things are unfolding the way they are, but that doesn't mean they aren't unfolding perfectly. And so, if you find yourself struggling with impatience, if you feel the urge to control, to force, to demand answers, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, do I truly trust this process? Because trust is not proven when things are going your way. It is proven in the moments when you have every reason to doubt, every reason to fear, and yet you choose to surrender anyway. Because in the end, patience is not about waiting for something to happen. It is about learning to trust that what is meant for you is already on its way. It's a curious thing, the way we hold on to an idea of how things should be. We create these stories in our minds, stories of how love will arrive, how timing will align, how another person will suddenly recognize what they could not see before. And when reality doesn't match the story, we resist. We fight against what is, grasping at what could be, believing that if we just hold on a little longer, if we just try a little harder, things will finally fall into place. But what if holding on is precisely what keeps things stuck? What if the act of clinging, of trying to control, to predict, to force, actually pushes away what is meant to come naturally? Because love, true love, does not thrive in desperation. It does not bloom in fear. It does not require grasping or convincing. And yet, letting go is one of the hardest things to do, not because we are weak, but because we have been taught that letting go means giving up, that if we loosen our grip, we will lose what we want, that if we surrender, we are somehow accepting defeat. But that is an illusion. Because real surrender is not about loss, it is about freedom. It is about releasing the need to make something happen and instead allowing life to unfold as it is meant to. Think about it. How many times have you tried to hold on to something that wasn't truly meant for you, only to exhaust yourself in the process? How many times have you fought against life, believing that if you just pushed hard enough, it would bend to your will? And how many times did you later realize that what you were clinging to was never really yours in the first place? The truth is, what is meant for you cannot be forced, and what is not meant for you cannot be kept. The more you try to hold on to something that isn't naturally aligning, the more resistance you create. And resistance leads to suffering, not because life is punishing you, but because you are fighting against the very flow that is trying to bring you to something better. Letting go is not about walking away in bitterness, It is not about shutting down your heart or pretending you don't care. It is about trusting that if something is truly meant for you, it will return in its own time, in its own way. And if it does not, then something greater is waiting. Something you cannot yet see, something that will make perfect sense when you finally reach it. So rather than clinging to what you think should happen, trust what is happening. Rather than trying to control the timing, trust that the timing is already perfect. Rather than fearing loss, trust that nothing real can ever be lost. Because when you truly let go, not with anger, not with resentment, but with trust, you make space. Space for clarity, space for growth, space for something to arrive that does not require struggle, something that fits effortlessly into the life you are creating. And that is the paradox. When you stop grasping, life finally has the room to bring you what was meant to be yours all along. It's easy to believe that love is something we must chase, that it's out there somewhere waiting to be found. And if we don't search hard enough, if we don't fight for it, suffer for it, it will slip away. But what if love is not something to be chased at all? What if instead of looking for it outside ourselves, we are meant to cultivate it within first? Because the truth is, the love you receive from another can never be greater than the love you hold for yourself. If you are waiting for someone else to make you feel whole, to bring you peace, to fill an emptiness inside you, you are placing your happiness in something fragile, something outside your control. And anything that exists outside your control can be taken away. So the real question is not, when will love find me? The real question is, am I becoming the kind of person who can truly receive and sustain love when it arrives? Because love, real love, requires depth. It requires presence. It requires a certain stillness within you, a quiet knowing that you are already enough, that you are already whole. If you are restless, if you are seeking love to escape loneliness, to validate your worth, to fill a void, then even if it arrives, it will never feel like enough. You will always be searching, always fearing its loss, always wondering if you are doing enough to keep it. But when you learn to be at peace within yourself, when you stop seeing love as something to get and instead as something to give, everything shifts. You are no longer desperate for someone to complete you because you are already complete. You are no longer trying to impress, to win affection, to prove your worth because you know your worth. You are no longer afraid of losing love because you realize that real love is not about possession. It is about connection, and connection cannot be forced. It cannot be manufactured. It can only flow naturally between two people who are ready to meet each other fully, without pretense, without fear. So rather than waiting for someone else to bring love into your life, start becoming love itself. Become someone who is kind, not because they expect kindness in return, but because kindness is who they are. Become someone who is patient, not because they are waiting for someone else, but because they trust the rhythm of life. Become someone who is whole, not because they have found the perfect partner, but because they have found peace within themselves. And when you do that, love will not feel like something you are searching for. It will not feel like something just out of reach. It will not be something you must suffer for, beg for, or cling to. It will simply be something that meets you where you are, because you will finally be ready for it. Because the truth is, love is not